Let's dive in here. So, a couple things that I want to make very clear. You absolutely can change your life and the way that you see the world with this information that I'm about to give you. But you actually have to be the one to do it. Just consuming this information without making a shift in your life is not going to change your life at all. And along those lines, I want you to take a moment to set the intention to be fully present throughout this tutorial. Take a second, pause this video, put your phone in a cabinet or somewhere else you can't see it. Grab a notebook and a pen and paper to take notes as you're watching this tutorial, and really just take the time to actually be present and think about the way this applies to yourself and your life. So let's jump in here. First off, I want you to understand that at its core, what we're talking about and what we're shifting is the fact that whether it's external, an experience that you're seeing, feeling, sensing, an internal memory, something from the past that you're remembering, or imagining something of the future, they're all processed the same way through the brain as if it's happening right now. Whether it comes from the prefrontal cortex, which we'll go into more detail about, or your eyes, your ears, your nose, and your skin, it comes through the filter of your brain, which creates your reality based on the filter that's pre-existing and leads to what you think, feel, and experience about what's going on. And so who is this tutorial actually for? So if you feel like you've achieved success or hit the goals but are not actually feeling fulfillment from it, you believe or want to believe that you can change your life and break the patterns that you've been in. You're tired of those repeating patterns, whether it's financial struggles, negative patterns in communication and relationships, being anxious, having extremely self critical or negative self talk. If you're dealing with consistent fatigue, brain fog, exhaustion, or chronic pain, if you know that you're meant for more love, success, abundance, freedom, but you keep hitting invisible roadblocks as you try to achieve that. And if you've been feeling reactive, socially anxious, like a poor communicator, really at its core, all of these come into the package of if you feel like you're not fully engaging with life as your true and authentic self, this presentation is here to help you. For me, the main two that I really struggled with as a result of not fixing what we're about to talk about was chronic pain and negative self voice. So for years and years and years, I had chronic pain all throughout the left side of my body. And I had this horrible negative voice where I was saying just really negative, derogatory things to myself on a day to day basis, which led me to feeling fatigued, exhausted, burnt out, and self isolating over the long term. And so, really, everything that we're going over today is how I took myself from that state to the state I am now, which is calm, present focused, relaxed, and blessed in so many ways. I literally cannot count them. So to start off, like I had mentioned, we interact with a internal or external experience. This can come from the prefrontal cortex, where we're seeing and imagining things internally, or from an external experience. Before logical thinking happens, this comes into the amygdala, which is essentially the alarm system of your brain. It's the amygdala's job to decide, is this something that's safe that we can think about and respond to logically, or is this something that's unsafe that we need to react to? This is the part of your brain where, as a human, let's say you're walking through the jungle, a lion jumps out and starts running after you. You don't need to take time and think about what's happening. You need to react immediately because you're in danger right now. So the amygdala decides which of these systems we're going to go down. If it is safe and you can think about it, your body is in rest and digest, relax mode, then it comes up to your prefrontal cortex. This is the human part of your brain that deals with impulse control, emotional regulation, decision making, planning and goal setting, self awareness, and also your social behavior and your empathy. So things like reading body language cues from other people and having meaningful connections and meaningful conversations all come from a prefrontal cortex that's actually allowed to do its job. The problem is when we interact with this internal or external stimuli, and our body reads it as danger, it suppresses this system. It stops the prefrontal cortex from working, and instead it sends it directly to the hypothalamus without any interaction with your logical thinking brain. So the hypothalamus controls essentially things that we think of as subconscious. So our circadian rhythm, libido, our body temperature, our heart rate, and blood pressure, which sends a signal to the sympathetic nervous system and triggers what we call the fight, flight, or freeze reaction. So we all know fight or flight, and we all know what it feels like to be angry or upset, to react to something instead of responding to it calmly and logically. And so this is that system happening. We all know how it feels to get upset like that. Heart rate starts going, your heart is pounding in your chest, rapid breathing, your body tightens up, blood pressure goes up, adrenaline floods your system, and your logical reasoning is reduced, like we had spoke about with the prefrontal cortex. What's really happening here when the sympathetic nervous system is activated is it's inhibiting the vagus nerve. So this is a nerve that goes from your brain to your body and from your body to your brain to communicate the things that are being signaled. So when it's blocked or inhibited, the fight or flight response is triggered. The vagus nerve stops calming you down. It does not allow digestion. It does not regulate your heart rate. It does not regulate your organs and the rest of the systems within your body. When it's active, it sends signals to these areas that your stomach can digest. You can exist with a lower heart rate. And a very interesting part of this is that 80% of the signals in the vagus nerve are actually coming from the body up to the brain. So what this means is you initially have the signal from the brain. It comes down into your body that signals these areas, your throat, your heart, your stomach, and the rest of your organs, that now is not the time to perform your function because we're in danger. Blood rushes to the other areas of the body to help you escape the danger. And this system, over time, especially during extended periods of stress, reads these signals in the throat, in the heart, in the stomach, in the organ, and realizes that the body is acting like it's stressed and in danger, and the 80% of signals going from the body back to the brain signal to your brain that we are in danger, which then results in the vagus nerve being blocked and inhibited even more, and ends up in a negative stress feedback loop, where you have a real or imagined stressor that comes from what you're thinking and feeling or actually experiencing. The hypothalamus activates the sympathetic nervous system, so your fight or flight response, which then goes to the vagus nerve, so the common signal that normally keeps you healthy, relaxed, and digesting is suppressed. The prefrontal cortex shuts down, so you're not thinking logically about what you're dealing with. Your body reacts even more, heart rate increases, you tense up. This signals back up the body towards the brain that we are stressed, we are in danger, which becomes an imagined stressor and activates the hypothalamus even more, suppressing the vagus nerve even more, and so on and so forth. And after days, weeks, months of living in this experience and being in the fight or flight state consistently for that long, this cycle has become your norm and constantly reinforces yourself, drains your energy, and essentially makes it impossible to be present, focused, connected to others, and even to relax and recover meaningfully. So this is the symptoms of this experience. The prefrontal cortex means that you have extremely reduced logical thinking and ends up leading to acting impulsively. So this can be in conversations, saying things that you know you shouldn't say, impulsive shopping, purchasing things that are outside of your budget, doing things without thinking them through, having a short attention span and not being able to focus, and having general brain fog. If you're feeling fatigued and like you don't have clarity throughout the day, that's a huge symptom of prefrontal cortex suppression. Along with that brain fog and that lack of logical thinking makes it extremely hard to actually set clear goals and plans. This leads to a feeling of lacking purpose, lacking clarity, lacking authenticity, feeling empty and directionless, and feeling like you don't know who you are or what it would even mean to act from your true self. Along with that, the amygdala hyperactivation leads to imagined arguments, worst case scenarios, being extremely reactive and defensive to other people around you, and things that people may not have even intended to be argumentative or even negative at all. The amygdala is constantly looking for danger. And so every little input, everything you experience, you're going to see through a filter of being attacked when having to be on the defensive. Along with that, the inhibited vagus nerve leads to tension throughout your body. So clenched jaws, shoulder, chest, lower back, hips, hamstring. And over time, this tension is what leads to a lot of the chronic pain that I personally experienced. Along with that, throughout your digestive system, bloating, inflammation, acid reflux, irritable bowel syndrome, unintended weight gain, because your digestion system is not functioning correctly. Along with that, slow healing and recovery or getting sick often. If you go to the gym and it takes days and days to recover from being at the gym, or you're getting sick on a monthly basis, infections, acne is a huge symptom of an inhibited vagus nerve because your immune system is so weakened and exhausted because of it. All of this together can end up leading to feeling tired but wired, where you're exhausted and brain fog throughout the day, but as soon as you lay down to go to sleep, your mind just does not shut off. This leads to feeling disconnected in relationships, where you're spacing out interacting with other people and not being mentally present, self-isolating, choosing not to pursue relationships, being easily triggered or overwhelmed by things that you're dealing with throughout your day or things people are saying to you. And along with that, especially feeling numb. So lacking emotion, especially no positive emotion, and going from this state of numbness and lack of engagement to rage and negativity when you feel like you're being attacked. At its core, like I've said, feeling disconnected from who you truly are and your authentic self. And so now that you have this understanding of what's actually going on, the goal is for us now to regulate these systems, to go from brain fog and no logical thinking to being engaged and motivated, present and calm, planning, goal setting, finding your purpose in life, connecting with others and communicating clearly, and having a positive outlook and a positive internal mental voice. So before we dive directly into how to actually make that shift, there's one more system within the body that I'd like to touch on, which is called the neuron and the idea of neurological pathways. So these are neurons. In a system like the vagus nerve, the way information is communicated is through electrical signals going up and down that nervous pathway. This is true for all parts of your nervous system and all throughout your brain. It's electrical signals that make the communication possible. So the way this happens is you have individual neurons within the structure that when you learn or experience something new, a connection is built, like this. And so they connect to each other, and then once that connection is built, it's easier and easier for the electrical pathway to go down this and through there. So the way that this manifests, and the reason that it's important to us, is imagine learning something new or a neurological pathway like an empty field full of tall grass, right? And so anytime that you think a thought or have an experience, it starts foraging a new direction. And so the problem that many of us run into is that, especially without proper experience or training, rewiring your thought processes to go down positive pathways, once you start down a negative pathway, we're at this grass field, and let's say we have a new external experience that leads us to having a negative thought. Now the pathway begins to be established. And so here it is, we're starting to have more and more of a pathway, and the pathway to happiness, positivity, quality thoughts off to the left is still hidden by walking through tall grass. And so if we wanted to experience this thought or emotion, it takes energy and a bit of discomfort to redirect ourselves from this existing pathway away from negative thought loops and patterns and towards something that's actually empowering and encouraging us, allowing us to rest and recover and re-energize, as opposed to being in this constant state of fight or flight. Really, the problem, though, is that many of us don't know how to make this shift or this redirection towards these positive, empowering thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And so over time, these neural pathways become so deeply ingrained that there's a pre-established road jumping from directly your thought or experience all the way towards an extremely negative thought, negative mind loop, and being on that downward spiral. And so how do we actually make this shift? So for me, I've seen it most effective going through this in 4 steps. The first is building your internal foundations and your awareness. So this comes in the form of actually getting quality sleep. Build a morning and evening routine that empowers you to actually rest and recover. Set a circadian rhythm, and also before going to sleep, practice internal positivity and gratitude so that you're falling asleep in that state, because it's going to lead to a gradual shift in your subconscious mind as your sleeping brain embeds that positivity into your subconscious. Along with that, your gut health. Like we had mentioned in the nervous system, especially the vagus nerve, 80% of the signals are coming from the body back up into the brain. And so if your gut is constantly inflamed, uncomfortable, trying to digest things it can't digest, or is in a stagnant state, then that's going to signal discomfort and danger up to the brain, which is going to stop you from allowing yourself to logically reason and is going to keep you in that negative feedback loop and that downward spiral. So you can fix that by building a strong gut microbiome, so the bacteria in your gut, and practicing things like good hydration and eating whole foods to allow balance within this system. Along with that, your breath. A huge symptom of being in fight or flight is very shallow breathing on a day-to-day basis. Never getting fully, filling your lungs, never really fully exhaling. So make sure that throughout your day-to-day, you are absolutely breathing in and exhaling fully. This is going to signal from your body to your brain that you are in a safe space and you can rest, relax, and recover. Along with that, on the topic of breath, if you're feeling overwhelmed or too stressed and like you need to calm down, exhale for longer than you inhale. Inhaling energizes you, exhaling calms you down. So it doesn't have to be a certain amount of time, but say inhale for 2 seconds and then exhale for 3. The process of exhaling for longer than you inhale is going to calm down your nervous system and allow you to lower that stress a little bit. Along with that, if you're feeling like you're exhausted, too fatigued, or too tired, and you do need to energize, inhale for longer than you exhale. So to do the inverse, we'd inhale for 3 seconds and exhale for 2. Once these foundations are put in place, it stops a huge amount of the energy leakage that you experience by not having empowering habits. Once you've stopped active leaks of your energy, and as you're going through this, it's important to build awareness of how you're thinking and feeling. You can't make a shift of your thoughts and feelings until you're actually aware of what they are. So this comes in the form of what I like to call a pocket notebook. And here we have that right here. And so I carry this notebook on me 24/7. It's a small notebook with a pen that I can take note of how I'm thinking and feeling throughout the day to build awareness as I'm going throughout my day. So if I have recurring thoughts or themes that are coming up, I'll write those down. If I'm feeling pain or tension in my body, I write down and take note of it. Also, I'll note things that cause an emotional reaction within myself, things that people say to me, things that I see on social media. And along with that, and when it comes to recurring thoughts, Also, closing open loops is one of the best things that you can do to restore your energy. So if you have a conversation that you know you should have had a month ago and you still haven't had it, if your room is a mess and you know you should clean it up, if your closet is full of old clothes that you've been wanting to donate or sell, keeping those loops open, even if it's not actively on your mind, does require subconscious energy. So identify open loops and close them. Have the conversation, clean your room, clean out the closet. Become aware of what's causing reactions. Become aware of what you're thinking and feeling throughout the day and how both of these things relate to the pain and tension in your physical body. I also like to brain dump journal before bed, which is where I take a bigger journal and spend as long as I need to just writing down every thought that I'm having, completely unfiltered, to allow any negative thoughts or any negative experiences that I've had today to leave my body instead of constantly ruminating on those things as I'm trying to go to sleep. And close those loops, remove that lack of energy. Remove that leak of energy. Once you have foundations to stop energetic leakage and you're aware of what you're thinking, feeling, and experiencing, now it's time to actively regulate your nervous system and especially your vagus nerve. So it's time to activate your parasympathetic rest and digest mode, which is where your vagus nerve is active and signaling to your heart, your throat, your digestive system, your stomach, that they can actually do what they need to do. They can digest. Your body can take the time to recover. This comes in the form of reducing overstimulation through media and replacing it with empowering media. So I always like to recommend downshift the media that you consume throughout the day. If normally when you would wake up, you would watch short form content videos for 20 minutes or a half an hour, which is possibly the worst thing you can do to start your day, by the way, downshift that to watching long form video content. If normally while eating a meal, you would watch long form video content, downshift that to listen to audio only content like an audiobook. And if, let's say, normally when you drive, you listen to an audiobook, take some time to allow silence. Hear your own thoughts, be present with what you're experiencing without distracting yourself with media. And along with that, reconnect to the present and take an active role rewiring those neural pathways to positive ones. Once you have awareness of what your thoughts, feelings, and experiences are and what causes those, it's possible to stop them as it's happening and to redirect those down a different path towards a more positive and empowering thought process. Along with that, I really like bilateral movement and EFT tapping, this kind of stuff, to process these negative loops and release these negative emotions that you're feeling. So this is all about coming into the present focus and relaxing into your body. And then from that point, once you have built that awareness, you're not leaking energy and you're actually actively regulating your nervous system. So you are approaching life being energized by the things that you're thinking and feeling as opposed to constantly drained by them. Now it's time to start shifting towards building empowering beliefs and establishing your purpose in life. And so beliefs are a very, very interesting thing. So let's say that you hold the belief, I am awkward. Based on the way that your brain filters reality through beliefs, you could go to a social interaction and have 10 normal, regular experiences and one awkward experience, and that's immediately going to shift you into fight or flight mode. You're like, oh, I knew it. I'm so awkward. And so just to simplify this with an example, if we look here, as we can see, we have a blue background, there's some railroad tracks, a hand, and a red can of Coca-Cola. So we've all seen this can 100 million times. We know exactly what it looks like, and we believe that Coca-Cola cans are red. So looking at this photo, obviously this is a red can of Coca-Cola. But as we zoom in, there's actually absolutely no red pigment throughout this image. But as we zoom out, our brain filters our reality to experience our reality with alongside our beliefs. So we believe the can is red because we've experienced it so many times. We zoom in again, the can is not red, it just looks like it. And the same goes for your beliefs. If you think you're awkward, all you're ever going to see is when you're awkward. If you think you're not good enough, all you're ever going to see is opportunities to believe that you're not good enough. So it's time to question essentially not what is true, but does this belief actually serve me? Because as long as you hold on to the belief that you're awkward, you're never going to overcome that belief, and no amount of social hacks or body language tips or eye contact instruction or pickup lines, whatever it is ever going to make that shift from you being awkward if you believe that you're awkward. So it's not time to ask, is this true? Because sure, you may have been awkward in the past, but it's time to ask, does this belief serve me moving forward? So an empowering belief to overcome I'm awkward would be I'm smooth and clear. And this does differ from an expectation, because if you expect to go into every interaction and be completely smooth and clear throughout that entire interaction, and then you have one awkward moment, immediately you're going to revert back to this belief of I am awkward. And so it's okay to accept I am smooth and clear and say, yeah, awkward moments happen sometimes, but I have the belief that I am smooth and clear, therefore I am. So I would recommend go through all important areas of your life, especially your faith, your relationships, your health, and your finances, and ask yourself, what are my beliefs in this area? Am I genuinely happy with this area of my life? And what uplifting belief can I craft instead? And then after you've gone through this process, you've built the foundations and the awareness, you've regulated your nervous system to be present, you've rewired your brain and shifted the filter of your reality to be empowering. Now it's time to connect with others and expand yourself into the world to take action on yourself and your purpose. So at this point, when you have that present focus and you have empowering beliefs, now you can look inward and also at your external community and say, what is my purpose here? Get clarity on the direction you actually want to take your life. Shift the way that you speak, shift your body language, shift the way that you communicate and you connect. And all of these things come so easily once the internal shift has happened first. If you're trying to do these without having awareness or regulating your nervous system, and all you're doing is watching videos on how to speak and communicate better, it's never going to be a meaningful shift until that internal work has happened. But once you've done the internal work, it's so easy to reflect an internally empowered state into the way that you interact with the world and the way that you find clarity and purpose for yourself. I hope this helped. If you have any other questions or would like some more guidance and direction, feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram and we can set up a time for a call. Hope this helps.